Today's my birthday. A victory sure would be nice.
Today is my birthday, so a victory would be nice.
Did you ever wonder what would happen if you opened one box of Mecha Anime, one box of Ace Combat, and kit-bashed them all together? Well, you might end up with something like Project Nimbus Rise Mirai, an anime-inspired mecha flight action game crowdfunded by indie developer Game Crafter Team, who is, I think, from Thailand, so hey, cool. And while it has some of the hallmarks of smaller developers, Nimbus delivers an action-packed experience in a genre we gamers aren't always so spoiled for. Let's take a look at it. Project Nimbus was a 6 Degrees of Freedom mecha flight game that has you fighting for peace in over 25 highly explosive campaign missions, along with survival and randomly generated modes as well. Like Strike Vector, my last review, Project Nimbus was expanded or finished over the years, but this is the final complete edition, which I think is the only one they sell now, so no worries on missing content. And I wasn't kidding about the references earlier. Nimbus starts with the teen pilot war drama of mecha anime, but mixes it with enough Ace Combat references to fill a Mobius strip.
I saw what you did there.
Enemy and friendly comms chatter is used for storytelling, units are often named after current-day military hardware, and the second half of the story in particular, chapters 3 and 4, is more than a little inspired by Ace Combat 5, with a mysterious third party trying to reignite a war between old foes, a captured world leader, even the big satellite crashing to Earth at the end. Gameplay is where it's at though, and Nimbus is pretty good, even if all the pieces don't quite fit together. It's fast and exciting, you get to shoot and slice through plenty of ankle biters, with a couple of mini-bosses thrown in, and you can boost quickly in any direction, which you'll need to do to avoid the constant swarms of missiles. The problem mostly comes down to targeting, where it can be really tricky to lock the enemy under your crosshair, or it randomly deselects the enemy you're working on. You'll be trying to take down a specific target only to have the lock disappear and have to fumble around to select them again. Now to be fair, I think it's when the enemy slides out of your field of view, but with the field of view being so narrow, it is a little punishing. Even when they are locked, your weapons have a habit of missing unless you hit at just the right angle. Now you can go for a melee with your beam saber, which is a guaranteed hit, but that often means a face full of missiles, so make sure you can spare the armor. Don't get me wrong, most of the time the game is totally doable, and when the targeting works, it's great. It just would have been nice if you could spend all your effort fighting the enemy rather than fussing with the weapons lock. Now occasionally the enemies do get hung up on scenery or at the edge of the map. It's never game-breaking, but it is a bit of sloppiness that shouldn't be there. Where Nimbus does go its own way is with weapons management. Despite being a fast action game, the main character's mechs have a big roster of weapons available, and reloading them takes time, so you'll have to cycle through and make the best use of everything. It's clever, it makes these feel like the hero mechs, the best on the battlefield, while balancing things for gameplay. A little bit of land mech management in a flight mech game, if that makes any sense. Presentation is probably the only real weak point of Nimbus. You can tell this is a smaller crowd-funded project, not that it's bad, but that it's inconsistent. For graphics, the lasers, pyro, and special effects are all nice, and it runs at 60 frames per second. Oh, and Nimbus even features a rare cockpit view, so that's a bonus. But the mechs and some of the scenery can look more PlayStation 3 than PlayStation 4. The animated briefings could pass for a mainstream game, they're great, but the anime portraits and cutouts don't quite match up to the pros. The biggest offenders are the voiceovers, at least for the English dub. I can't speak to the Japanese work, it might be better, but in a game this fast I can't take the time to look at the subtitles. And yeah, some of it is pretty amateurish. The AWACS callouts are usually fine, but the main characters, ironically enough, are definitely low points.
All jammers down! I repeat, all jammers down! Shit! Those Russians destroyed all the decoy systems!
It's okay. I'm not the one risking my life piloting battle frames going into the battle or something anyway.
It also feels like they didn't get the memo on the right motivations for some of their lines. Credit where it's due though, the music is great and could easily pass for something straight for Ace Combat 4. content, Nimbus has 3 main modes to keep you occupied. Campaign is the story mode, and while again the aesthetics aren't top tier, it does switch perspectives to make things interesting. You'll see the action as both the Allies, the US Air Force and the mercenary group Mithril, and the antagonists, the Russians and the Children of Fallen Nations. The late game does have some difficulty spikes, so just beware. There are 3 difficulties to choose from if you need. Survival mode is pretty straightforward. You'll work your way through increasingly difficult waves of enemies, but you can choose from just about any of the mechs in the game, including enemy aces. And finally, Warfront has you taking on your choice of randomly generated missions to level up and upgrade your hangar. You begin with a starter mech, but can use any of the gained points to buff its stats like fire rate or armor. Level up and you'll gain access to better mechs. It's a fun, clever mode that lets you build your way up, unlike survival mode which favors the top units, obviously. Put all together, Nimbus is a fun, exciting indie title. Whatever my earlier complaints, it's important to know this was a crowd-funded effort from a small developer, and they made a great go of it here. Some issues could stand a bit more money, and the combat could be tightened up, but the important thing is this got made and was published for all major platforms. Nimbus would be a great stepping stone to something bigger and better. Here's hoping for a sequel. And considering the state of AAA gaming here in 2024, I'm all in for smaller developers getting some love. And thank you! Would you be my next subscriber? And remember to keep going, even when things get tough, because you are worth it.